Imagine building the most advanced multi-billion-dollar supercomputer in human history, right?
Yeah.
But then you realize you literally can't turn it on.
Oh, because the local power grid physically cannot handle the heat it generates.
Exactly. I mean, it sounds like a hypothetical sci-fi scenario, but it's not.
No, it's really not.
That is the exact friction point hitting the global tech market this morning. So, welcome to the deep dive. You are sitting right here at the table with us.
Glad to have you here.
And our mission today isn't just to, read you the daily headlines. We are taking a massive stack of current events and reverse engineering them.
Right, to uncover the hidden currents that are actually driving the second half of this year.
Yeah, and our grounding material for this exploration is the Daily Tech Reader's 6 a.m. news brief for Tuesday, June 30, 2026.
It is a hefty brief today, too.
Oh, it really is. Looking at this intel, we are tracking everything from semiconductor supply chains to international shipping choke points.
Yeah.
All the way to border security.
Yeah.
So, okay, let's unpack this, starting with the fundamental technological shift anchoring today's news.
The AI shift.
Yeah, enterprise AI is officially moving out of the laboratory and into the actual walls of the business world.
It really is. The language being used by the markets and, enterprise leaders today, it's fundamentally changed from the hype cycle of just a year or two ago.
Oh, totally.
We are looking at a market demanding stabilization and maturation. Companies are no longer just throwing money at foundation models.
Right, which are those massive underlying statistical brains trained on the entire internet.
Exactly. They aren't just buying them to issue a press release saying, hey, look, we have an AI strategy.
Yeah, those days are over. Like, the brief shows that AI coding assistants are now just standard developer tools.
Yeah.
It's not a novelty anymore. It is literally just how the job of writing software is done in 2026. But what really caught my eye is how these companies are paying for it.
The pricing models.
Yes. Customers are aggressively demanding usage-based, predictable AI pricing models. Like, they want measurable returns on investment.
Right, and we have to look at why that pricing shift is happening, because it reveals the underlying mechanics of the technology itself.
How so?
Well, in the traditional software era, a company would buy a software as a service or SaaS subscription. You pay, say, $20 a month per user.
Okay, yeah. Okay.
And it doesn't really matter if that user logs in once a week or 10 times a day. The server costs for traditional software are relatively negligible.
Right, but AI breaks that model completely.
It shatters it. Because AI requires heavy, expensive compute power every single time it generates an answer.
Right.
Every single prompt requires a GPU, a graphics processing unit, to perform billions of calculations in real time.
So if an enterprise deploys an AI agent to handle customer service, and one customer asks a really simple billing question,
Yeah.
but another asks the AI to analyze a 50-page technical manual, the compute cost for that second query is just exponentially higher.
Exactly. So businesses are rejecting flat-rate subscriptions because they are getting burned by these unpredictable cloud bills. They're evaluating AI based on cold, hard profitability.
Which makes sense.
Yeah. If an AI tool is integrated into an enterprise production environment, meaning the live, customer-facing systems that a business relies on to survive, it has to work flawlessly. And the cost of the compute cannot exceed the human labor it's replacing.
Here's where it gets really interesting because, well, visualizing this transition made me realize we've been looking at this the wrong way.
How do you mean?
Well, people keep comparing AI to the early days of the internet, the move from dial-up to broadband. But they focus entirely on the software side. We need to look at the physical side.
Oh, the infrastructure?
Yes. This isn't like updating an app on your phone. This is like the transition from hand-building a few shiny concept cars to constructing a massive automated assembly line.
That's a great way to put it.
Right. Because building a concept car is just a design challenge. Building an automotive factory requires pouring thousands of tons of concrete, securing supply chains for raw steel, and building entirely new electrical grids just to run the robotics.
And what's fascinating here is how the baseline expectations have shifted right alongside that massive infrastructure build-out.
Yeah.
Open source AI ecosystems and multimodal capabilities, meaning an AI that can natively process text, audio, video, and raw data simultaneously.
Right, all once.
Yeah, those are no longer futuristic concepts pitched to venture capitalists. They are the minimum baseline requirements for a software vendor to even get a meeting with a chief information officer today.
Wow.
The market is aggressively rewarding profitable AI businesses, which means operational efficiency, not just raw intelligence, is the new battleground.
Okay, so AI is officially moving from a software concept into hard physical infrastructure. But resource strain doesn't just happen on a spreadsheet.
No, it definitely doesn't.
Laying the metaphorical concrete for these AI factories requires actual physical resources. And the news brief is flashing red warnings about AI data center construction and semiconductor demand. It's driving utterly massive capital spending.
Huge amounts.
But beyond the money, it is completely reshaping long-term utility planning across the entire globe. Electricity demand forecasts are rising at a rate we haven't seen in decades.
Well, computing is, at a physical level, the process of turning electricity into heat.
Right.
And when you cluster tens of thousands of these advanced GPUs inside a single data center, the energy draw is staggering. This brings us to the concept of baseload power.
Okay, explain baseload for us.
So data centers cannot operate on intermittent power sources. They require baseload, which is power that is constantly generated and available 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, regardless of weather conditions.
Because they can't just power down.
Exactly. You cannot have a global financial institution's AI infrastructure go dark just because a storm rolled in and blocked the solar panels.
Which explains the renewed policy attention we are seeing on nuclear energy and utility-scale battery storage.
Precisely.
But, this energy hunger is crashing headfirst into the realities of the climate. Utilities are scrambling to find power for data centers at the exact same moment the physical world is literally overheating.
It's a very precarious balance.
Yeah, we are looking at major public safety warnings regarding summer heat and severe weather across the U.S. right now, while a relentless European heat wave is actively stressing their domestic infrastructure.
The thermodynamics of the situation are highly problematic. A data center doesn't just need electricity to run the chips,
Right, it needs cooling.
Yeah, it often needs just as much electricity to pump chilled water and run the massive HVAC systems required to keep those chips from melting. So when a regional heat wave strikes, consumer demand for air conditioning spikes, straining the grid precisely when the ambient air temperature makes cooling these data centers far more difficult and energy intensive.
Okay, I actually have to push back on this idea of AI being a stabilized, mature enterprise tool then.
Oh.
Yeah, if enterprise AI is so operational and reliable, why are we seeing state-level legal interventions? Like looking at a popular post from just a few weeks ago, June 1st, 2026, Florida became the first state to officially sue OpenAI over ChatGPT safety failures.
That was a major headline, yeah.
It feels like we're trying to run a high-end, overclocked gaming PC in the middle of a desert without a cooling fan. Both the tech and the climate are overheating, and the safety mechanisms are clearly failing if state governments are stepping in to sue.
This raises an important question, though, about the inherent friction of speed.
What do you mean?
Well, how fast can we push advanced software deployment before the physical and legal systems supporting it begin to fracture? Rapid technological scaling always outpaces both grid modernization and legal regulation.
That makes sense.
Software code can be updated and deployed globally in an afternoon. Modernizing a regional power grid to support that software takes a decade.
Right.
And drafting and passing legislation to regulate the downstream effects of that software takes years.
So the lawsuit in Florida is just the symptom of the software outrunning the guardrails.
Precisely. When AI agents are deployed into real-world business functions, making decisions about loans, healthcare triage, or legal compliance hallucinations or system failures, carry immediate real-world liabilities.
Yeah, people could actually get hurt or lose money.
Right. And this friction is why human oversight remains an absolutely central component of enterprise AI deployment in 2026. We've not automated away the need for human judgment.
Okay.
The infrastructural limitations and these emerging legal liabilities make a human-in-the-loop more critical now than during the hype phase.
That's a really good point. And this infrastructural drag brings us to an unavoidable reality. Physical resources dictate global power dynamics.
Absolutely.
If AI needs constant power and cooling systems need constant power, then energy supply chains become the most critical pieces on the geopolitical chessboard. Which brings us to the international developments in this morning's brief.
Yes, the diplomatic shifts.
Right. And just to be super clear here with you all, we are explicitly not taking any political sides on the Middle East or U.S. border issues. We are merely mapping the geopolitical realities reported in the brief today.
Exactly, just looking at the facts.
So China is actively calling for diplomatic solutions in the Middle East. And a massive data point from May 31st, 2026, shows the U.S. and Iran reaching a tentative agreement regarding the Strait of Hormuz, with diplomatic engagement actually continuing today.
The Strait of Hormuz is arguably the most vital maritime choke point on the planet.
It really is.
A massive percentage of the world's daily oil consumption passes through that narrow waterway. When oil-producing nations and global energy markets monitor geopolitical developments, they are watching that specific stretch of water.
Because if the strait closes, energy prices skyrocket, and the cost of running every factory, cargo ship, and AI data center on Earth goes through the roof.
Which is why you see such intense diplomatic pressure from major economic players, including China and the US, to stabilize the region. In a world increasingly dependent on massive energy consumption to power the digital economy, regional instability in the Middle East is a direct threat to global technological and economic progress.
Right.
Markets are balancing supply forecasts directly against these diplomatic thaws.
But the map of global conflict isn't just about high-level maritime treaties. The brief notes that Ukraine and Russia are continuing to exchange long-range attacks, keeping European security conditions highly volatile.
Yeah, that's still ongoing.
And then we have the absolute stark contrast of physical borders here in the U.S.
Yeah.
Immigration remains a central political issue, but the detail that stands out is from June 2, 2026.
The tunnel.
Yes, federal authorities uncovered a 2,000-foot drug tunnel directly connecting Mexico to the U.S. I mean, think about this. We are spending billions of dollars building quantum-ready cloud infrastructure. We have heads of state negotiating complex maritime security treaties to protect global energy.
Right.
And at the exact same moment, the most effective subversion of national sovereignty is a group of people with shovels digging a hole in the dirt. The contrast between high-tech globalization and low-tech physical reality is staggering.
It really is. It perfectly illustrates the dual tracks of the modern world. You have top-down, highly sophisticated diplomacy attempting to impose order on a macro level, and bottom-up, brute force circumvention challenging that order on a micro level.
Wow. Yeah.
A digital border can be secured with advanced cryptography, but a physical border stretching thousands of miles is bound by the messy realities of geography and human desperation.
Yeah.
Yet, despite these glaring physical conflicts and the ongoing long-range attacks in Eastern Europe, global trade networks are demonstrating remarkable elasticity.
The brief actually describes the market sentiment as cautious optimism, which feels almost contradictory given the volatility we just mapped out.
It is a pragmatic optimism.
Okay.
Markets abhor uncertainty, but they can price in known instability. Humanitarian organizations are continually warning of severe food insecurity in conflict zones, and climate resilience is forcing massive international capital reallocation. But the core economic systems are holding.
They're adapting.
Right. Nations are actively negotiating to keep shipping lanes open because the mutual economic destruction of a closed energy market is just too high.
So what does this all mean? Like, we are looking at a world where AI is physically overheating local power grids, international superpowers are brokering deals to keep oil flowing through narrow straits, and nation-states are trading long-range missile fire.
It's a lot.
How do everyday markets process this level of systemic noise?
If we connect this to the bigger picture, we look at where the institutional money is flowing. The markets are aggressively shifting their focus away from the geopolitical theater and drilling down into hard, domestic economic data. Investors are tracking employment figures, manufacturing output, and inflation signals.
Really? Just the basics?
Yeah, they're betting on second-half economic growth because the macro-level diplomatic chess game is largely seen as a stabilizing force, not a disruptive one.
So the markets are ignoring the noise and focusing on the consumer. And the everyday reality of the consumer is remarkably grounded. While utilities worry about data center baseloads, the brief notes that housing affordability continues to be the primary challenge for everyday buyers nationwide.
Human behavior remains incredibly resilient. The geopolitical tectonic plates are shifting, but daily life goes on.
It really does. Look at the cultural indicators in the brief. Independence Day travel is ramping up across the U.S. Active preparations are underway for America's 250th anniversary, and the World Cup knockout stages are capturing massive global audiences.
Yeah, everyone's watching the matches.
Exactly. We have autonomous transportation fleets rolling out and quantum computing algorithms breaking new ground, but at the end of the day, millions of people are just gathering in pubs to watch a football match.
That juxtaposition is the defining characteristic of this era. Hybrid work patterns have stabilized. People have figured out how to balance office workflows with remote automation.
Right.
The media landscape is adapting, with podcast listening continuing its upward trajectory, and traditional media evolving to capture digital audiences.
Even the way we handle creativity and science is experiencing this seamless integration. AI is obviously influencing the creative industries, which sparks a lot of public debate about the nature of art and content creation.
Right.
But when you look at the health and medicine data, AI isn't a philosophical debate, it is a highly practical tool. It is actively shortening portions of clinical research trials and expanding remote patient monitoring.
It's saving lives.
Yeah, it is slipping into the background of our lives, much like electricity did a century ago.
The extraordinary has become entirely routine. Consider the daily life cycle of a professional in late 2026. They use an AI coding assistant to streamline their morning workflow. They check their portfolio over lunch to see how a Middle Eastern diplomatic agreement impacted energy stocks.
Right.
They adjust their thermostat in the afternoon because a regional heat wave is threatening rolling blackouts, and they spend their evenings streaming the World Cup. The integration of world-shifting technology into mundane daily life is absolute.
When you lay it out like that, it brings us right back to you, the listener.
Yeah.
At the start of this deep dive, we talked about how a daily news feed can feel like a dumped-out jigsaw puzzle without a box.
Okay.
But when you lock the pieces together through the lens of cause and effect, the picture is crystal clear.
Everything connects.
We trace the journey from the massive compute requirements of enterprise AI down into the physical strain that puts on our power grids and cooling systems.
Yep.
We followed that energy hunger out into the world, watching how it forces diplomatic stability in the Middle East to protect shipping lanes, even while physical borders remain highly volatile.
Right.
And we brought it all the way home to an economy that continues to grow and a culture that continues to thrive, despite all that friction.
Every single data point in this brief represents a highly interconnected node in a global system.
And that is why this Tuesday morning news brief matters. This isn't just a sterile list of events happening in a vacuum. It is the architectural blueprint for the next few years of your life.
It really is.
The capital spending on semiconductors and the construction of data centers in your region will directly dictate your future utility bills.
Yeah.
The diplomatic engagements in the Strait of Hormuz will impact the cost of the consumer goods shipped to your door.
Absolutely.
The integration of artificial intelligence into biotechnology will dictate how rapidly the medical treatments you or your family might need are discovered and brought to market.
Yeah.
You are living inside the walls of this blueprint.
And if we project forward based on that blueprint, there is a final concept worth examining.
Oh, what's that?
Well, we have established today that artificial intelligence is fundamentally reshaping knowledge work and dramatically accelerating scientific discovery. Compute power is the undisputed engine of the modern economy.
Right.
But we have also established that its fundamental constraint, its Achilles heel, is the massive, unfathomable amount of raw electricity required to run it.
Yeah.
So, as you move through your week, consider the shifting nature of inequality. If compute power dictates economic and scientific success, but compute power requires massive energy, will the next major societal divide be based not on who has access to information, but who has access to the raw power grid required to process it?
Wow.
As demand outstrips supply, could affordable electricity become the ultimate luxury good of the late 2020s?
That is a staggering thought. The idea that the ultimate status symbol of the future won't be owning the most advanced technology, but simply possessing the electrical bandwidth to turn it on.
Something to think about.
It definitely makes you look at the wall outlet in your home a little differently. We're going to leave you to chew on that one. Thank you so much for pulling up a chair and joining us for this deep dive. Until next time, keep looking for how all those pieces fit together.